Coming up on the season finale of Phillies Nation, Pat and Corey discuss what went wrong in 2014 and what's to come for the Phils in 2015. The guys give us their projected lineups and rotation and talk a few moves that should happen this offseason. Tommy Greene joins us on the mound, and we'll find out who the batters and box question winner is. Stay tuned, Phillies Nation starts now.
Welcome into the final Phillies Nation of the 2014 season. It's presented by BQ Basement Systems. He is Corey Seidman, I am Pat Gallen, and we are here at the beautiful Fieldhouse Sports and Beer Hall in Center City, Philadelphia. Well, the 2014 Phillies season is over. Another dreadful year, 73 wins once again for the Philadelphia Phillies. So instead of looking back on a season that really wasn't and didn't go the way that people had thought it would go, why don't we look ahead and try and fix things for 2015? And that, of course, starts with the lineup. So let's talk about that projected 2015 lineup. I think we can both agree Ben Revere at the top. He had a pretty good year.
Yeah, well, first off, before going to that lineup, I just want to make the comment that the Phillies spent $18 million more this year than they spent last year.
Yep.
Finished with an identical record, 73 and 89. It's been 7 consecutive seasons the Phillies have taken a step back. Won the World Series in 08, lost it in 09, lost in the Championship Series in 10, lost in the Divisional Series in 11, finishing 3rd in 12, 4th in 13, and now 5th here in 2014. So steady steps back by the Phillies.
Yep.
Like you said, though, let's project what can happen moving forward to enable them to contend. I think that Chase Utley needs to move up in the lineup. I think you would agree, right?
I agree with that, yes.
He's no longer a 3-hole hitter. He just does not have the power to do it. I think that Utley fits better into that 2-hole because of his on-base percentage, because of his ability to hit a single in between first and second base with a man on first base. You know, that could create a lot of first and third opportunities for the Phillies. The problem is, what do you slot in after him? I don't think the Phillies are going to be able to have the same type of middle of the order.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit different, and we both agree Ben Revere and Chase Utley 1-2 in the lineup. Then it gets a little bit murky, but the guy that we both think should be the number 3-hole hitter next season is Yasmani Tomas, the Cuban outfielder. We don't know a whole lot about him other than he's big, a corner outfielder, and he can mash some home runs.
Yeah, and he's going to make like $100 million. It's going to be an $100 million contract, so from the Phillies standpoint, I guess you're really hoping that A.J. Burnett does not pick up his player option. We'll get into that a little bit later. But look, the Phillies will have some money to spend. And this is the one guy on the market that you can get for a probably not ridiculous price that could come in and be a game changer for you. If the Phillies were to sign Yasmani Tomas, you'd be replacing your biggest offensive weakness, left field, with probably your biggest offensive strength.
All right, Marlon Byrd looks like he'll be around, so we'll throw him in the 4th spot, clean up in this order. And then 5th, where first base would be, we both agree it probably won't be Ryan Howard next year. I've got Michael Kadire in there, and he's played for the Colorado Rockies the last couple of seasons. And we always talk about the splits with guys like that, playing at Coors Field, playing away from Coors Field. His away splits are not that bad, so you tend to believe that if he were to come to Philadelphia, he still would hit the way Michael Kadire does. So we go with him at first base, batting 5th.
Well, you go with him. I'm not completely sold on Kadire just because he's like 36 years old now. The Phillies have been interested in him for a while.
Yeah,
they tried hard to sign him 3 years ago when he eventually went to Colorado. The Phillies actually, if you remember, went with Ty Wigginton instead after they couldn't get.
Which you liked, by the way.
I did at the time, but anyway. But yeah, so maybe there's a guy like Mike Morse, maybe somebody like that come in, bat 5th.
Someone of that ilk.
Someone of that ilk. The point, though, is that Ryan Howard this season, it just the numbers weren't there. I mean, if we told you 95 RBIs at the beginning of the season, you'd probably take it. But 23 home runs, 190 strikeouts, a batting average below 230, you wouldn't have taken any of that. And I just think it's time to move on.
All right, so if we move on from that, we go down to the bottom of the Phillies order. 3rd base, Maikel Franco. You agree with that? Probably in that 6th spot.
I think a platoon of Franco and Ashe would work.
Okay, he's 6th. 7th, we slot Jimmy Rollins. Normally, used to seeing him at the top of the order. I don't think he can be there anymore. I think he's got to be in the 7, 6, 7, 8 spot.
I think Jimmy makes sense at 6. I'd probably move him up a spot. I'd probably have Franco/Ashe batting 8th after Carlos Ruiz, but Jimmy still had a very productive year. He hit just 243, but did it with a lot of power, a lot of stolen bases, some doubles, walked more times than ever before in his career despite missing 20-odd games. So, you know, Jimmy did have a pretty productive year.
All right, one of the guys missing, though, as we go to some of the bench bats is Dominic Brown, and I think that this has got to be it for him. They gave him a good enough shot to try and win that job and become an everyday outfielder. It just didn't work. So he's a trade candidate, I think. And the bench, I think, might pan out to be like this. We mentioned Ashe and Franco in a bit of a platoon. If you trade Dominic Brown for Dustin Ackley, he would be a perfect bench bat, a guy that can play second base, a guy that can play first, a little bit of outfield as well, and he is one of those change of scenery type candidates. So Ashe, Galvis in there, Ruff in the outfield, Ackley, and then your backup catcher is Nieves.
It's not a bad bench. I mean, the Phillies bench the last 2-3 seasons has been pitiful, and that's an area where they definitely need to upgrade this offseason, just get some better quality players in there. I mean, even a guy like Grady Sizemore, if you bring him back to be a fourth outfielder, be a super sub, that would be a pretty productive way to go with the bench. Now, in terms of Dominic Brown, let's talk about some guys who might stay, who might go. Dominic Brown, the Phillies have 4 options with him the way I see it. They can keep him as a starter, which I don't see how you can do that after this season.
Not if you want to contend.
No, you make him a bench player, you can try to trade him, or you can demote him to AAA. You mentioned Dustin Ackley. I'd be all for that trade. I don't know if the Mariners would, though, because Dominic Brown...
Might have to sweeten the pot a little.
Maybe. Yeah, I think you would, because the Mariners, if you're a team like the Mariners or any team that might be thinking about acquiring Dominic Brown, you're not just looking at the down numbers. You're looking at the signs this year that you saw, which were not positive at all in terms of offense, defense. Dominic Brown really didn't have a prolonged hot streak at any point this season. So it will be tough for the Phillies to go into 2015 with him as their starting left fielder.
All right, continuing with some stay or go candidates. Ryan Howard is one we talked about. You agree that, see, I don't know that the Phillies will necessarily let him go, but we both agree that it's probably the right move.
Well, he has $50 million guaranteed left on his contract. No, that's actually $60 million guaranteed left on his contract because of the $10 million buyout in 2017. So if the Phillies try to trade him to an AL team, you're picking up, of that 60, you probably have to pick up like
90, no,
maybe
90% of it, I was going to say.
50 to 55 million of that. I just don't see how they can continue with him moving forward unless they commit to batting him 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I don't know that that's going to be the case. If Ryan Howard's on your team, are you going to be able to move him out of the 4 or 5 spot?
So.
It seems tough to do that. How about some of the pitchers? Stay or go? Papelbon, Burnett, Kyle Kendrick. Of those 3, any of them stay? Who goes?
I say Papelbon stays. I think the other 2 are going to go. A.J. Burnett has that $12.75 million player option. Not sure what he wants to do. It was not a healthy season for him.
Not at all.
He's a guy who's made like $150 million plus in his career. I don't think $12.75 million at his age means as much as it would to anybody else in the world.
That's insane, yeah.
But, you know, I can't see Kendrick coming back just because the Phillies can probably replace that back end of the rotation production for a lower cost.
Yep.
Kendrick's going to probably make between $7 and $8 million next year, I would imagine. He made $7.8 million this year. And in terms of Papelbon, he's going to be back just because I don't think the Phillies can trade him, especially after what happened a few weeks ago with the crotch grab. I think that, you know, just around the league, the Phillies have tried to trade him 3 times.
Yeah,
last winter, this deadline, last deadline, not finding any takers that want his baggage.
All right, so if Burnett and Kendrick won't be back, it means we're going to have a new look rotation here in Philadelphia. What's it going to look like for you? We know at the top, Hamels and hopefully a healthy Cliff Lee. After that, sort of some unknowns in there.
Well, Cliff Lee's the X factor. I mean, if Cliff Lee's not healthy next year, there's absolutely no way the Phillies are contending, even if they sign a Yasmani Tomas. If you're able to slot Hamels and Lee into that 1-2, well, then again, you have one of the top 1-2s in the NL. Sure. The thing is, there's very little after that. I mean, you're hoping that Aaron Nola pans out in spring training, maybe battles for a rotation spot. You're hoping that Jerome Williams can carry this forward into the future, bring him back on maybe a non-guaranteed deal, see what he can do. David Buchanan. Okay, David Buchanan had a very good second half of the season, giving the Phillies quality innings, quality starts, and then you're going to need to sign a couple free agents. One guy that I'm looking at is Brandon McCarthy, who dominated with the Yankees in the second half.
Sure.
He's not like a sexy name like a James Shields or a John Lester, but gets a lot of ground balls, limits the walks. I think he could pitch pretty well at CBP.
And a couple other names to look out for that I'm looking at. Jason Hamill, who had a pretty good year with the Cubs before being traded to the A's. And
Stunk with the A's.
He did stink with the A's, but he's one of those guys that, hey, you pick him up for a cheaper cost than maybe he would have been.
In the NL, too.
And then Jake Peavy as well. So that's our lineup. That's our rotation. More Phillies Nation is coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Sports Vault Access, the leader in unique sports memorabilia, has commissioned a first-ever hand-signed photo to commemorate all 6 members of the Phillies' modern-era individual no-hit club. Halliday, Millwood, Greene, Mulholland, Wise, and Bunning together as never before in a spectacular framed piece. This official MLB-licensed photo will be limited to just 100 inscribed pieces. This is an unprecedented piece of memorabilia for the serious Phillies fan or collector. Brought to you by Sports Vault Access, Beyond the Game.
Our customers tell us it's important that they know who they're doing business with. Basement foundation issues are never fun, and finding a contractor that you can trust can be hard. That's why I founded BQ Basement Systems in 1997. We're the experts. in identifying and fixing problems in your basement, your crawl space, foundation repairs, and all things basementing. Have one of our certified inspectors out for your free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
Live sports. Craft beer. Great food. Good times. What more do you need? Every day is a party at Fieldhouse Sports and Beer Hall, the largest sports bar in Center City. Come to 11th and Filbert to see what you've been missing.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness Challenge like Dan, who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Pat here on Phillies Nation. Let's jump right into By the Numbers. It's brought to you by BQ Basement Systems. They, of course, have flexible payment options should you need any work done on your house. Corey, David Buchanan had a pretty good year, and I didn't realize how good it was until you told me this stat.
Yeah, we just mentioned how David Buchanan has slotted himself into the Phillies' 2015 rotation. Listen to this. David Buchanan finished his season with 16 consecutive starts, allowing 3 earned runs or fewer. That was the longest streak all season by a right-handed National League pitcher.
That can't be.
That can be. In fact, there were only 3 National League pitchers, period, who had longer streaks than Buchanan: Clayton Kershaw, Cole Hamels, John Neese. So Kershaw, Hamels, Buchanan.
How about that?
How about that?
Doesn't seem right, but it is.
I mean, he pitched really well. He really did. He gave the Phillies quality innings.
This year, not a lot of runs are scored, as you pointed out, a lot of good pitching so far this year. It is the first non-strike shortened MLB season in which no team scored 800 runs or more since 1992. No runs being scored around baseball.
The game's really changed. Like in 2007, there were 19 players in the National League who hit 30 or more home runs.
Yeah.
In 2009, there were 15 players in the NL who hit 30 or more home runs. You know how many there were this year?
How many?
3.
It's not that much.
There were 3 last year. So the last time there was a 2-year span where there were 6 combined 30 home run hitters in the National League, 1975 and 1976. So we're looking at like 35 years ago. More than that, we're looking at 40 years ago. And 75, 76, actually, Mike Schmidt did it both years, Dave Kingman did it both years, and Greg Luzinski did it in 75. So the Phillies were a part of that.
That's why power is at such a premium on the open market these days, and that's why we're talking about guys like Yasmani Tomas and maybe keeping Marlon Byrd around. How about those Kansas City Royals back in the postseason for the first time since when? 1985, when they won the World Series. A long time coming for Kansas City Royals fans, so congratulations to them. It's a good year.
It's been pretty cool that like the Royals and Pirates over the last 2 years making the playoffs while the Yankees are at home.
Pirates are back. How about that? How about you still think the 2 LA teams are going to go to the World Series?
I do. I've been saying Dodgers, Angels all year. I think the Angels could be had in the playoffs because the rotation is not as strong as some of the other clubs, but that offense has just rolled all season.
Yeah, it has. Without Garrett Richards, though, he'd look a lot better in there. I went with Oakland. They're probably not going to win. They won't even get out of the wild card
ice
game.
cold right now.
They really are. How about let's go to Fantasy Baseball, brought to you by DraftKings.com. It's fantasy football season, as you know, so sign up there. It's our fantasy MVPs. So guys that you got the most bang for your buck out of. Last week we did our Cy Young winners. This week, our most valuable players in fantasy. Who's yours?
Anthony Rendon, and I'll tell you why. Anthony Rendon went undrafted in a lot of leagues, and in others was a late-round pick. A guy who was eligible at second base and third base, 2 positions that were pretty tough to fill this year consistently. 111 runs scored, 39 doubles, 21 homers, 83 RBIs, double-digit steals, a .287 batting average. Just across the board provided you with a ton of value. I bet a lot of Anthony Rendon owners won their leagues.
I bet. Or how about Jose Altuve, who's my MVP? A lot of those owners may have won their leagues as well because the dude won the batting title in the American League, hitting .341, and he was drafted between the 8th and 11th round in a lot of leagues this year. Hit 47 doubles, stole 56 bases. That's just an amazing season for a guy who's, what, 5'5"?
A lot of sizeism. People didn't take Altuve too early because he's 5'5".
Exactly, but
they will next year.
They will. He had an incredible year for the Houston Astros. When we come back, Ryan joins us for the Batters Inbox. Don't go anywhere. It's Phillies Nation.
Our customers tell us it's important that they know who they're doing business with. Basement foundation issues are never fun, and finding a contractor that you can trust can be hard. That's why I founded BQ Basement Systems in 1997. We're the experts in identifying and fixing problems in your basement, your crawl space, foundation repairs, and all things basementing. Have one of our certified inspectors out for your free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness Challenge like Dan, who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation. I'm Ryan Williams, and I'm here with Pat and Corey, and it's time for our final Batters Inbox questions of the season. Who's ready to start?
Let's go. I'm up a point. Do I get the win for the season?
We'll see.
We shall see.
Our first question. Who was the biggest Philly killer this year? Corey?
Going with Henderson Alvarez, the Miami Marlins pitcher who it seemed like faced the Phillies every week this season. He faced them 6 times, had a 1.52 ERA, and didn't lose any of his starts. Henderson Alvarez had a very good year for the Marlins. One of those pieces that came over a couple years ago from the Blue Jays in that mammoth trade that involved Josh Johnson, Mark Burley, Jose Reyes, etc. But Alvarez pitched very well this season. He was the ace of a Marlins staff that lost Jose Fernandez early. Sinker baller, just Phillies could not touch him all year.
I'll just go with the entire Mets pitching staff, but if I need to zone in on a couple of guys, Zach Wheeler, John Neese, Bartolo Colon, they go a combined 7-1 against the Phillies this year. 2 of those guys had an ERA under 3. And the Mets as a whole went 13-6 against the Phillies this year. And you're going to be seeing a lot of these guys, not so much Bartolo Colon because he's like 64 years old, but you're going to see a lot of Zach Wheeler, you're going to see a lot of John Neese, and we haven't even spoken about Matt Harvey this year because he's been out all year, and Noah Syndergaard, who's one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball.
And Rookie of the Year, Jacob deGrom.
And Jacob deGrom. That is a nasty pitching staff that we're going to get the benefit of seeing here how many times a year?
The benefit? I don't know about that.
Well, you proved your argument on that one.
Thank you. So I got that point.
Yes, you did.
Now I'm up 2. How about that, Corey? Come on.
Sorry.
Come on.
Got to step up your game a little bit.
Let's see. What's question 2?
Okay, our next question. What is the best part of the 2014 Philly season? Pat?
I'm going to go with Ken Giles. And I know that they threw a no-hitter this year, and that was a really important part. But Ken Giles was a revelation. Where did this kid come from? It was just a year ago that no one even knew who the heck he was. And this year, 64 strikeouts in 45 2/3 innings. And maybe more importantly is that once Jonathan Papelbon is no longer with the Phillies, Phils have found themselves a closer for a long, long time, and a guy who's going to be under team control and very cheap for several seasons. I think that is of major importance because you're seeing around baseball, teams just aren't spending on closers anymore because they're finding guys within their system. The Phillies spent big on Jonathan Papelbon. They won't have to do that anymore with Ken Giles.
Yeah, the answer is definitely the bullpen. I would say, though, that the moment is the no-hitter because it highlighted all the things that went right with the Phillies this season. Cole Hamels starting, Jake Diekman, Ken Giles, Jonathan Papelbon pitching at the end of that game. And it was like the one day over the last 2-3 months where you actually got to feel positive.
It's true.
About the Phillies. I mean, really, and it was the one day where the Phillies were in the national spotlight over the last couple months. That was the one day to remember of 2014.
And I'm going to agree with you on that one, so you're going to get that point.
All right, closing the gap.
Our next question, who or what has been the most surprising part of 2014? Corey?
The most surprising part to me is that the Phillies got full seasons out of Ryan Howard and Chase Utley and finished with the same record they finished with last year. Ryan Howard played 153 games. Chase Utley played 155 games. Jimmy Rollins played close to 140 games. Utley and Rollins had a good year. Utley had a good first half. Howard was, shaky all year, but it's just unfathomable that you thought coming into the year, if these guys can stay healthy, Phillies can make a run. They didn't even finish close to 500 with their core guys staying healthy. To me, that was shocking.
That's a great point because Ryan Howard, we said, if he hits 25 home runs and knocks in maybe 95 or 100 runs, they might be in good shape.
And he did that.
He did that, and the Phillies were not in good shape. I'm going to go with the regression of Dominic Brown. I don't know what happened to this guy. I figured he's not a 35 home run hitter or a 40 home run hitter, but he can be a serviceable middle of the order bat. Maybe give you a 23, 25 home runs a year, knock in 90, hit 260. But he fell off a cliff this year. 235, 10 home runs, and it just didn't look the same from the get-go. He didn't have any confidence at the plate, really struggled throughout, and of course, as has been documented for a long time with Dominic Brown, the struggles in the outfield, he just isn't a good defensive left fielder. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Trade could be likely after this season, who knows, but Dominic Brown's regression was huge because they need power, and he didn't give it to them.
For sure.
I agree with you on that one. After last season, we thought he was going to turn it around.
Yes, we did, and it didn't happen.
Our next question. Give one available player you would like to see on the Phillies next year. Pat?
Well, I think I can give a couple. How about Dustin Ackley, who I spoke of earlier? I know it's not going to be a one-for-one swap with Dominic Brown. You might have to sweeten the pot to get him from the Seattle Mariners, but two change of scenery type guys. And then a couple of pitchers who I mentioned earlier as well, Jason Hamill and Jake Peavy. They definitely need to stock up on middle of the rotation arms because, as you saw, they use 9-10 guys a year and they just did not have the depth, and it doesn't look like they're going to have the depth next year either. They'll have Aaron Nola. Who knows what's going on with Jesse Biddle? He didn't look the same at all this season. So that rotational depth is key. They didn't have it. They're going to need to sign a bunch of guys this year. So those are my three guys. I know you asked for one. I'll give you three.
The clear answer for me is Yasmani Tomas. It would fill the Phillies' biggest need. They need a left fielder. They need a guy with power that hits from the right side in the middle of that lineup. And it's not every day you get the opportunity to bring in a 23-year-old potential superstar. If the Phillies can't get him, though, because there's going to be a lot of competition for Yasmani Tomas, I don't really think they should spend on much at all, because I don't see what the point would be. If you don't fill that void, there's nobody in free agency that is going to offensively take this team to another level, I don't think. I don't see that with Hanley Ramirez or Pablo Sandoval or any of those guys, so I wouldn't really be committed to spending. But if they do sign Tomas, Brandon McCarthy, who I mentioned earlier in the show, a number 3 starter you can plop into the middle of that rotation, can probably pencil in for 200 innings. He's a guy I'd like them to go after.
And you're going to win this argument now.
Okay, tied for the day.
Getting there? Are we tied?
I'm up 1 to the last question of the year.
We got 2 more, don't we?
No, we have one
more.
question.
Oh, wow. Damn. So I can't win?
I don't know. We'll
Tie.
Okay.
Our last question. Who is one player to watch in the 2014 postseason? Pat?
I'm going to go with the great Mike Trout of South Jersey, the Vineland kid. You know that everyone here in Philadelphia and South Jersey is going to be pulling for this kid. It's his first trip into the postseason. He's a guy that I thought should be a 3-time AL MVP. Probably will win it this year. But what's important is that he finally gets his first trip to the postseason, and the Angels look like they can win it all. It's going to really depend on the pitching staff. Offensively, they've been a juggernaut all season long. So I'm pulling for Mike Trout. We'll see what happens here. Go Trout.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that we get to see Mike Trout in October for the first time here. And if we could see the potential dream matchup between Kershaw and Trout in the World Series in the first inning, that would be pretty incredible. I'm going with Justin Verlander, though, as the X factor in the playoffs, just because Verlander was mediocre all year with an ERA close to 5. But his last 2 starts, when the Tigers needed it most, pitched very well, 2 earned runs over about 15 innings. If he can be the Justin Verlander of old or some semblance of that, the Tigers, in my opinion, have a very good run to the World Series, because nobody's touching Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander and Anibal Sanchez or the rest of that rotation in the short series. David Price, my God, yeah.
Well, sorry. He's going to win this.
Did I win this year?
You did.
Is that right?
I'm kind of surprised.
Where's the confetti?
Here, we'll raise your hand.
All right, thank you so much.
I did, all the research I did, Pat wins.
I don't even have a speech prepared. I want to thank my mom for helping me out this whole season. No, I'm kidding. Here's the money that I owe you, though, for letting me win.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that wraps up our final Batters Inbox questions for this season. We want to thank you, the Phillies fans, for all your questions. Stay tuned. More Phillies news is coming right up. Philly has a long sports history filled with great players and moments. Shibe Vintage Sports in Center City relives the glory years with fashionable attire for all your favorite teams. Separate yourself from the crowd with the hippest Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers gear. Pick up some unique shirts featuring local teams of yesteryear, or come to fun events where you can learn about your favorite teams. So if you're a sports fan, then you need to check out Shibe Vintage Sports. Visit them at 13th and Walnut or shibesports.com.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
At Village Catering, we're committed to making your event one to remember. We are family owned and operated, and for more than 30 years, we've made our mark on Philadelphia as a go-to caterer for all of your special events. We're also the official caterer of the Flyers and Soul and the preferred caterer of Temple Athletics. We will work with you at customizing your off-site event, or you can have your event at our on-site facility, the Cottage Greene, so that you'll feel like a guest at your own party. Contact us at 215-698-1117 or villagecatering.com, and we'll help you make a memory today.
Hi, I'm Tommy Greene. Today we're going to talk about the fans of Philadelphia and fans on the road when we go on the road as ball players. My experience here in Philadelphia was one of the best of my life as far as in baseball, as far as dealing with the fans. Fans of Philadelphia are the best to me because they hold you accountable. I tended to pitch relatively well at home, so hopefully that was a reason why they didn't have too many boos for me, but it was okay because when I was bad, I expected to be told I was bad, and I wanted to get better for the fans. It's a great place to play, and I love the fans of Philadelphia. It's awesome. On the road, hecklers, and it's the home team, they're trying, especially like in Shea Stadium, they had some of the best hecklers out there, talking about people with your family, how big your feet were and how bad your hair was, and just anything they could do to get you out of your game. Sometimes it could be rude, other times, it was good and all in good fun. Really enjoyed the fans, but the best fans to me are the Philadelphia fans. They were great.
Thank you, Tommy, for all your contributions this year. Taught us a lot about pitching all season long. Let's go to our Twitter trivia. The hashtag is PNTrivia at Phillies Nation. Our last question was Carlos Ruiz caught the combined no-hitter for the Philadelphia Phillies, which we talked about. That made 3 for Chooch. Name the only catcher in MLB history to catch more. Who? Jason Varitek of the Boston Red Sox caught 4 of them. This week's final trivia question is this. Ben Revere finished at 306 with just 2 home runs. Who's the last Philly with at least 400 at-bats to finish above 300 with 2 or fewer home runs?
I know who it is. I'll give you guys a hint. He had a great year for the Phillies, but he didn't stick around too long.
He had a good 1 year. 1 year. With the Philadelphia Phillies. That's a great hint. Now, let's give some thank yous to all the people that helped contribute to Phillies Nation this year. There were so many, and we don't want to miss any of them. And let's start with Ryann Williams. Of course, she's been fantastic this season as our co-host, does an excellent job every week with the Batter's Inbox. Ian Riccaboni, he's working on a Phillies Nation book on the top 100 players, and he's been great at philliesnation.com. Jay Floyd, our minor league correspondent. Natalie, some great features this year, as well as Rudy Mezzi from 2020 Visual, who reported on Josh Ockamy, as well as Len Epstein. Becca Hendrickson brought us the story of the Jewish baseball exhibit. Also, Tommy Greene, who I just talked about, he was excellent this year. Matt Stairs teaching us about hitting, as well as Kevin Wilson, your buddy, who taught us a lot about hitting. And the great Jason Stark, we thank him, and I thank him for allowing me to be his co-host on 97.5 The Fanatic, and for always teaching us about the game, the great Jason Stark. And how about all the people that help behind the camera, 2020 Visual, all the people there, our sponsors, BQ Basement Systems, the Field House, there's a number of them, Dr. Lenny Roberts at Summit Spine and Wellness, Village Catering, PFCU, Shibe Vintage Sports. It's been a great year, and it's over, just like that.
Hope to be back next year.
We will be back. For Corey, I'm Pat. We'll talk to you in 2015 right here on Phillies Nation.